Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am your host, Talib Kweli, the BKMC, the MCEO. Welcome to another installment of the People's Party. Shout out to my homegirl, Jasmine Lee, my lovely, talented co-host in the house. Today is a very special episode. It's one I've been looking forward to doing for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the wonderful, the talented Bun B, Don Cheadle, Little Kim, Ice Cube, Be Real, Chuck D, Vet, Nicole Brown, Tiffany Haddish, Anthony Anderson, L Productor, Method Man, Moni Love, John Forte, D Smoke, Patrice Calores, Godfrey, The Game, Jada Kiss, Saw Rock, Questlove, Macklemore, Don Lamont, Common, Eric Andre Patel, DMX.
Look at what we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party.
This weed is crazy, by the way.
It is. Yeah, LA, man.
It's good to have proximity. Like I said, proximity is key. Proximity is key.
Tell me about your proximity to Chad.
It was very close. Probably my first long-term friendship, right? Because I had older brothers, but two of them, I had three older brothers. Two of them went in and out of jail, and the other one had a bunch of kids at a young age, so he was constantly working to take care of his kids. And you're in a group, right? So you know that there's only certain things that you and your counterpart really understand. There's things that you guys went through together. And as you get older in life, there's only certain people you can go to about certain situations. Only certain people really understand on a very base level what it is. Because it's not really easy being a public figure. I won't even say an entertainer or whatever. It's not easy being a public figure. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a lot of complexities that go into how you have to present yourself to the world and then kind of come back down to earth, you know what I'm saying, at any given time. You got to rise up to the clouds and be whoever it is that they believe you could be, and then go right back to who it is that you know and the people around you know that you are. And sometimes that could be a conflict of interest. And, he and I, there were times where I didn't want to do this shit anymore. And he would have to, reassure me about this shit that there's a higher purpose. And vice versa. There were times he didn't want to do this shit anymore. And I had to tell him, this thing is actually bigger than us now. UGK is not just a group. It's a movement. Like, people are living through us, you know what I'm saying? And we have to, the victories that we achieve mean a lot to a lot of people. And that was something that he held very, very close to his chest, because nobody loved UGK more than he did. And that's, and that was really the heart and soul of the group and the movement. And it was amazing to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? I've written a lot of rhymes, I've done a lot of songs, but there's a distinct difference if you listen to the songs where Pimp and I are rapping together.
Right.
There's a whole other level of lyricism that I go to, because there was no one else I was more comfortable engaging with in the process than him. And that was something that we shared for many years. And once we figured out, how to make it work, and that you could do it blindfolded at that point. And we had so much fun. We never argued about music. We never argued about lyrics. We never stepped on each other's toes. It was beautiful because we were the perfect yin and yang, right? We didn't have the same kind of friends. We didn't like the same kind of women. We didn't wear the same kind of clothes, cars, none of that. So we never bumped heads on anything. We were very individual, and never felt like we needed to wear matching jackets or shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really love you because you're you. They love me for me, and we don't need to mess with none of that, right? Just keep being you. Sometimes I agree with it, sometimes I don't, but I'm never gonna get in the way. If that's how you feel, I'm with you 100%.
Ain't that the secret of making good music?
It really is. You gotta just give over to the process, right? And to the other people, right? And allow them to go as free and as far as they fucking feel, right? Because it may not hit the right note with you, but as you travel through the world, you realize that they're actually hitting other people, right? Because that's not maybe the message that you're meant to get from them. That's not maybe the wave that you're meant to connect with them, but that person is special.
You talk about how some opportunities weren't available to y'all because y'all were so pro-marijuana.
Right.
I remember watching y'all on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, well, we had a plan.
What was the plan?
We had it planned, right?
Oh, you planned it, okay.
It didn't go as planned, but it had the same effect, right?
Right.
So what was supposed to happen was, I think it was We Ain't Going Out where we do this, because we performed Insane first, and then We Ain't Going Out came second. And what was supposed to happen is in the last verse, you know, when we were getting close to the chorus, you know, the DJ was supposed to start smashing the turntables. He was supposed to undo the turntables and start smashing them like The Who used to smash their equipment at the end of the set, because we were doing that for a time and lighting our shit on fire. So we wanted to do something similar on Saturday Night Live, and he choked up. But the thing is that we, you know, after we were, you know, to smash the set, we were going to light our joints up right there while the set was smashed up in you know, the wake of a smashed set. We're blazing, right? But because, you know, dude was kind of nervous up there, Muggs sort of, he just said, fuck it, and he pulled out the joint first.
Right, I saw that.
And you know, they said we couldn't light our joint going out like that. And then later on, you know, dude doesn't do the thing, and so Muggs pushes over Bobo's percussions and stuff to make it look like we're starting to smash shit up.
Right.
It was a total fuck up on on what we were trying to do, but Muggs getting that first, you know, few seconds of the song where he lights that joint, that got us banned forever, but it also added to our legend.
It did.
We go down in history as being banned from SNL.
Yeah,
no, that's like radical marijuana activism.
Yeah, and we're one of the 10 groups that are a permanent ban.
One thing I never do is I don't give comedians advice on my own, like, oh, let me tell you what you
Right.
I don't do none of that shit.
Right.
You find your way, your own way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if someone asks me,
I saw this happen because a friend of mine in Cincinnati, Kevin, he was opening for you,
right.
And I seen him give you advice, and it was interesting because you know you were your serious show had just finished, right?
Yes.
And you had a trucker in the room.
my boy Big Daddy.
Right. For people who don't know, when Godfrey's serious show was on, a large portion of his audience was truckers. Black truckers.
Black truckers especially,
right?
yes.
And there's a network of black truckers, and they was coming in, and this young man was giving him, he asked him for some advice, and the advice you gave him was priceless. You gave him advice on his set or what he could do better.
Cool
and
dude.
He only had 2 years in, so he was like, you a 2-year-old?
You're a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And I could tell that he was a 2-year-old because the way his style was, I've seen that.
Right.
I've seen, because especially with, I could say black comedy, a lot of black comedy, white comedy, they all approach it the same way. Yo, what's up, motherfucker? Yo,
Right.
I know yo. They're copying.
Well, because if you're watching black comedy, you watching old comic views. You watching Chitlin Circuit thing, and you thinking loud, and you thinking
loud, and a lot of times loud is insecurity. You know, that's why I kind of love, like, now with especially African American comedians, you see the Gerard Carmichaels, the Hannibal Burris's who aren't loud.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of funny black people that aren't loud.
It's introspective.
It's interesting. It's not always loud like, yo, you better rock shit. You ever suck a dick? Good night. Give it up the chicken wing.
Right.
Hey, and then the next guy get up. Man, I was fucking so hard, my dick run off. Good night. It's like, but then you get on stage because they're imitating, which you got to start off with something.
Yeah, you start off imitating. I started imitating KRS and Rakim.
Of course, it's natural. And then you find your own way. I'm from Chicago, so I came under the tutelage of Bernie Mac.
Right.
Real
and you was on the
talk.
Bernie Mac show.
I was on Bernie Mac's show.
Which
I
you
showed
watched
you
that
that
night.
shit.
He's
one of my
playing a
favorite
character on Bernie Mac's show back in the day. Shout out to Bernie Mac.
Because Bernie Mac, I remember meeting when in Chicago, I started off doing mainstream. I always did mainstream and black audience. And I was doing the mainstream. I started off in a comedy team, actually, with a buddy named Alex. We started a comedy team. I broke off with him. And you know who told me to break off with him was Steve Harvey, of all people, when he was actually kind of nice. Steve Harvey. Because Steve is a mean guy.
Right.
But Steve was like,
Pusha T.
Yeah, Steve.
What's a Pusha T?
I've never met him in person.
So I broke off and started doing my solo shit. And then I said, man, I want to do some black audiences, man. I want to do black. And they were like, yo, you need to go see Bernie Mac. I said, who the fuck is Bernie Mac? He said, on the south side of Chicago. I was the north side of Chicago. Go to the Bernie Mac at the Cotton Club. I said, okay. So I showed up. I showed up Monday, the next Monday, 8 o'clock. I see this motherfucker sweating with a towel, glasses going, I'm sick and tired of being motherfucking sick and tired. Let me tell you, motherfuckers, you know, I'm tired of this shit. You motherfuckers don't understand. Boom, boom, boom. And I said, God, and he destroyed. When I see, that's why when cats be like, you know, not to knock down LA and shit, but when you guys are talking about funny, man, who are you talking about? I said, when I saw Bernie, motherfucker, we saw Bernie. And this is Bernie when he ain't famous, when he's starving.
It's raw Bernie.
Raw Bernie, 15 years in. He started with Arsenio on them in 79.
Right. By the time he got on TV, he was like, I ain't scared of you. Right.
Yeah. He changed Def Jam.
Right.
Adele Gibbons changed Def Jam. Those are the people we opened up for.
That's right.
Bernie was like, took me under his fucking tutelage and taught me and literally took me under and would give me advice. I was so lucky. I was sitting there with his wife 3 in the morning at the Cotton Club by myself. He go like, what you gonna do? Who gonna take the torch? You motherfuckers trying to get standing ovations and shit, you know? But you don't understand, you got to take people for a ride. You understand?
Yeah.
You got to be interesting. You got to have a motherfucking story. Oh yeah. I was schooled by that.
If I have depression issues or anxiety issues, which I'm sure every human being has some, I've never dealt with them. I've never went to a doctor and had spoke to nobody about it. I've never medicated, taken a pill. So it's not something that I relate to on that level. But as I grow older, it's something that I've been maybe callous about. You know, I think that the society is like, oh, there's something wrong with you. And I feel like I've been in that space before. But as you grow older, I have people in my life who have depression issues and anxiety issues. And the way I've dealt with them, not knowing sort of the science behind it or not knowing what they're really going through, has been callous at times. And I've had to like grow and change and be like, oh, what you're going through is anxiety or depression, and you're not just being a dick or has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But that's most problems. You always have to think when someone's acting a certain way to you, that's like, oh, that's a you problem.
but I've had to learn how to do that. Do you have advice for people who may be like how I've been in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always just to give people space and, like she said, like not to take things personal. I believe that's one of the 4 agreements with Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah,
like,
it's a great book.
Yeah.
Sell it at my bookstore, qualityclub.com, and Kira Books. We sell that book.
I love
Get
that
it,
book, actually.
get it. If you don't got it, get it. Yeah, don't take it personal. Like even then, and then give them their space, and especially if they're an artist. Because that's why I tell my friends, the artists that with anxiety, like, bro, we're gonna beat ourselves up because we're creative for a living. So you're a master creator. So the things you create, the obstacles and things you create in your mind are gonna be even 10 times more vivid and real than someone else that's struggling with anxiety. So you have to realize that, especially if it's an artist friend or a younger person, because the young person's imagination is like, and it's like,
Right.
it's, so just, I think giving them space, and because there's not, when you get in there and try to deal with it, it'll only frustrate you and make you more. Because I have a friend that I work with that's even worse off than me, and I'm like, hey man, just get on the fucking plane, man. Goddamn. Like,
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine that won't travel.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, she'll make it. She'll say she's gonna travel, and then she won't. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's I don't know quite how to talk about it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I think there's nothing you can do other than love them from afar.
And send them
when you're
books.
ready, and like kind of give them incentive, like when you get here, we're gonna do this. If you can make it, but if you can't, that's okay. And letting them know. I think leaving the door open and walking away from the door with someone like that is like, cool. Well, whenever you're ready to come in and talk about it, or whenever you're ready to come in and be cool and nice to me again, cool. But to stand there and like try to get them to go through the door is gonna irritate you.
I gotta
Can't bring
figure
a
out how to
horse
get
to
out of
water.
that space because I feel like I've done that before. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
or
Like,
slamming the door in their face, like "fuck you," then
Right.
like. But it's so easy to say, because me suffering through it and going with someone who's suffering even further, deeper into it, it's hard for me. And I'll be like, well, I know this. Even for me, I'm like, I've been there. This, and this work. Do this. And they're like, nah, bro. Like, that doesn't work for me.
So the two main criticisms of Black Lives Matter was why all these women and these queer women taking over our movement and making life harder. The other criticism is George Soros funds Black Lives Matter. Who is George Soros, and why do people think that he invented and started and funds Black Lives Matter?
Well, George Soros, I've never met you. I really hope you can fund us. You have a lot of money. It would be really helpful. Let me tell you about this myth that clearly now we know that some purposeful troll created.
Yeah, the Soros thing is, Soros is someone who funds.
Yeah, he's a big funder. He's a huge
Yeah,
funder.
and so he's the right wing and the alt rights or whatever they call them online.
Yes.
They have this anti-George Soros
Absolutely.
campaign, and Roseanne Barr got in trouble. Like when she said the thing about Valerie Jarrett,
Right.
the subplot was the George Soros thing, and she had to apologize because she's at least smart enough to know that I got caught telling a lie.
Absolutely.
She said he was a Nazi, which is their thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. George Soros is a huge, major funder. He's a philanthropist
Of
a lot of things.
right, because you have the Koch brothers. Koch, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Coke.
Koch brothers,
Yeah.
right? They're huge funders too.
Yes.
but they fund very different things than Soros.
Precisely. Soros funds criminal justice reform work, like hands down. That's what, and he was funding it before it was like the cool thing to fund.
Right, and he was raised in Nazi Germany, and his family had to escape, right?
Yes.
And so that's part of his story why he's always been for progressive causes.
That's exactly right. And he's been behind a lot of funding of the progressive DA races across the country. He's, he has a thing called the Soros Fellowship. Lots of my friends have done it. But this myth of George Soros sort of creating Black Lives Matter and then funding us, it was one of the most fascinating, because I was in Europe on my book tour 2 years ago, and I went to this small town in Britain, and I was so excited. I'm sitting with a group of Black people, and this woman says to me, after we're all done introducing ourselves, she goes, I really need to understand this, how, I want to know why you're funded by George Soros. And I was like, all the way in the UK.
Yeah.
And
It's the most pervasive thing. Like the thing I hear the most about Black Lives Matter,
It's George-
more than anything, is
right.
George Soros.
He started it, and he's funding us, and we're puppets of his.
Yes.
I think that was started by the right, clearly. I also I wasn't fully sophisticated around the right wing reach before this moment, right? I didn't know what Breitbart was.
Yeah, Breitbart is very important because Steve Bannon and them set out to start rumors like that.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they created that and then, when Bill O'Reilly was on air, really amplified that,
Right.
you know.
And a lot of people in our community, in the
Absolutely.
conscious
Yeah.
YouTube
Yes.
community,
Yes.
latched on to those right-wing rumors
Yo.
and sunk their teeth into it.
One of the first places where that rumor got banned inside the Black radical left was the Black Agenda Report.
Yeah.
They said that we were sort of liberal Democrats. We were co-opting the left. And it was really disheartening because not one of those folks ever sat with us, called us, talked to us. And those types of rumors, I think that those things are the scariest for me in these moments, because the internet, you literally can't tell what's real and what's fake.
Right.
And
Post-truth.
Yes.
It's not about the truth, it's about winning this argument.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
As a female, when I was coming into the game and I did the hardcore poster, the famous squat, you know what I mean? Like, that was game changing. And so many women were hating on me. Like, I was surprised because it was sexy, and to me it was done, it wasn't tasteless. It was classy, it was cute, I was fresh faced, it was, oh my God.
It's a beautiful piece of art.
Yes,
On top of
that's
being
how I
sexy.
looked at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a beautiful piece of art.
Well,
That's
the thing
how
is
I
that
said
with
it.
women, it's the same thing as with some black people do. It's like you let the ideas of others cloud you in your mind. So it's like you hear men saying what a woman's supposed to be, and then they
Right.
see a woman that's 100% themselves doing whatever they
Yeah.
want to do, and they don't understand that concept
Right.
because they've been brainwashed and they
Right.
don't even understand that, oh, I can do this too.
Right.
I can be me.
Right. And so with that being said, I kind of went into a place like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Because there was like activists.
The backlash.
Backlash. Smashing CDs, all that stuff, right? But for every time they did that, it made me millions of fans bigger. Like, I'm talking about to the point where there were other activists taking up for me.
That's right.
There were women that I thought that were hating on me coming in crews, and I was like, whoa, this is big. Like, this is bigger than me.
Right.
It was bigger than me.
Right.
And I said, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I naturally went down into that squat pose, but Biggie picked that picture, and he was like, the label was like, are you sure you want to?
Right.
I don't know. Like, we don't know if we can.
Right.
And he's like, trust me, this is the one. And then they was like, well, let's have a backup. He said, no, there's no backup. This is the one.
So you didn't know that you were about to change the world, that you were gonna have to you were putting all that extra pressure on yourself to be a voice for women that began
No,
with this shit.
no, never. I feel like Biggie knew.
He was a visionary A&R, visionary lyricist.
Oh, yeah,
Sort
he-
of whole vision.
He knew that picture was gonna be big. I don't know if he knew it was gonna be super duper like that, because that was on every man's jail cell wall that you can.
Yeah, you have a lot of raunchy, sexy verses, but one of the raunchiest and sexiest is from How Many Licks.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Actually, every verse on that song is
I wasn't allowed to sing that song.
but you talk about that poster particularly in that record, and talk about how what the effect it had on men in prison.
People were getting killed over that poster in jail, and I'm like, and people were getting killed over this poster. Like, that's something you can't process.
Right.
Because it makes your mind say, Dag, this is really something historic. But Dag, do you want people getting killed over a poster?
Yeah,
Like,
and I imagine it's conflicting for you because
Yeah.
in my opinion, you can't take that on yourself because you're being a creative artist. People in general are repressed sexually, and men are taught that sex and relationship with women about conquering and how many women you can have. And so you lock men up with other men, and we don't talk honestly about sex. We don't deal honestly about sex. I remember when I was coming up, like, just to keep it a buck, like how I came up, we used to make fun of each other, like, oh, you jerk off. Like, that used to be taboo. It used to be taboo for black kids. White kids, it wasn't taboo for.
Oh, no.
For black kids, it was taboo for. So when you go, and then you got men in jail who don't have any idea what sex is, any type of relationship, and then they have a relationship with this poster, but then it becomes
Yeah.
an emotional relationship that has nothing to do with you as a person.
Yeah.
It has to do with society. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But your poster becomes a catalyst
right.
for this.
And
crazy.
it's funny that you bring that up because now I speak for all black women too, because I speak for black women when I say this because a lot of unanswered questions, and when women are in abusive relationships, a lot of unanswered questions is, why do you stay? Well, we were also taught to stick by our man.
That's right.
And we were also taught that no matter what, be his rock.
That's right.
And because of what you said, we are sensitive to that, and we get that, and we understand that. So we stay to be the light and hopes and prayers of God coming in and doing his job and helping our men, our young black men, become this strong black men.
That's right.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Of course, we've got to know when it's time to leave. But, I think a lot of people are hard on these women who stay in these abusive relationships, but you don't know until you're in one.
For me as a man, I'm still learning as a man in my 40s. I'm still learning that women, when they speak up, the ramifications that come with that.
Yeah.
Whether it be you lose a job or you get killed.
Or you get killed.
Yeah, it's
Or
like-
you get killed. And most of these women have children. Like, so that's I had to really speak on that because that's a hard thing to deal with. And as a woman, we've all been through that. We've all been through that. We've been there.
One of the things I love about Run the Jewels is it's not this, like, we're colorblind, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's the opposite of that. Yeah. It's like, here's a fucking black guy from Atlanta, here's a fucking white guy from Brooklyn. We share this hip hop experience. We both love this America's Most Wanted album. Let's make some jams.
Yeah.
From the time I've met you, I don't know if you know this, but people think I don't like white people.
Huh.
What?
I don't know where they get this from. But from the time I've met you,
Really?
it's
Must be those
it's never
Twitter
been
people.
about this guy. It's always been like, you have always been an integral part of this culture. It's never been a race thing. The idea of colorblindness means I erase your experience. I don't want to.
Right,
Yeah, I don't. When I see you, I see a white guy.
Yeah,
I see everything that comes with that,
sure,
right? And so when I hear your perspective on hip hop, it's a white guy from Brooklyn's perspective on hip hop. I've read interviews with you when you said when you started, you were the only fucking white guy in the room in a lot of these rooms. There was no.
Yeah, but I
Eminem.
never fucking cried about that shit. It was just what it was. You know what I mean? It was just that I wanted to be a part of the music, and so at the time that I was coming up as trying to be a part of the music, it was just not. It was not normal for there to be white people actively participating in the music or trying.
But you've dealt early. You dealt with things that people who are woke now talk about in terms of race. You didn't do it, and like you said, you talked earlier about doing like a top down, like a macro way of dealing with it. But before I ask you this, let me say this. I also read you talking about how people expect rappers to talk about politics, but don't expect artists and other genres to talk about politics. Why do you think that is? And do you feel like you as a white artist have to speak about white privilege or have to speak about racial issues?
No, I don't. I just, you know, I always found it a little distasteful to talk about or to put myself in any type of light that might insinuate that there was this struggle that I had because I was white, that I was trying to get into rap or anything like that. Like, I remember back in the day, they did an article on The Source. And they were doing this article about, this is maybe 96, 97 maybe. And they were doing this article about white rappers, which is not a normal thing. It was like worthy of an article back then. You know what I mean? Even then, I was like, you know, because I just never thought, it never really was something that, you know, what I've said to people, I've said this, because over the years I've had these questions thrown at me that are from various directions about it. And I've basically been like, look, I am white, but I'm not an expert on being white. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't tell you. I think I had a little bit of a different...
You're an expert on being LP.
I'm an expert
But it
on
would
being...
be great if we could not have to be experts on being black.
100. And this is one of the reasons why I find it distasteful, and always did, to insert myself into a conversation that, quite frankly, should be thrown at the bottom of the pile. Because there are other conversations that need to be had. And for me, it was just like... I think that I just knew early on, basically, that I was just going to be me. I was just going to be myself. The way that I grew up and my group of friends and everything, this was, you know, I don't think that it was necessarily atypical, but I think that, you know, me coming into the game and doing this shit, I always was super excited about getting into what I considered to be an amazing musical culture. That was something that it was what I was obsessed with. And I never looked at it like, I don't know, I just didn't have that sort of feeling of entitlement, like this shouldn't be hard. I actually thought it should be hard. I actually knew it was hard. And I still was like, it doesn't, you know, I'm not going to make it about that. Like, I don't know.
Your answer is interesting to me when you were like, well, do I? Because when I think back, I'm like, okay, this record early, or I think about you being on.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So Early was definitely written from the perspective of like somewhat apathetic sort of person, a quote unquote ally or a liberal, right? Who does connect and does seem to, it feels like they feel connection to the plight of, you know, of another group of people who are being, who are under the thumb of authoritarianism on a regular basis. And showing the disconnect, you know, the verse of that shit ends with like, you know, basically him being like, well, you know, do this again, another day. You know what I mean? And then Mike's was the verse of the guy who actually legitimately was feeling the results of what was happening. And we just thought that was an interesting and true and perspective that, you know, and for me, I felt like this could be, I'm glad you picked up on it, and, you know.
What's interesting to me about your answer is, I feel like even if you were actively not trying to do that, you can't help but do it because the culture is based on black consciousness. The people that you grew up on, that you're the Ice Cube, the Public Enemy, you said you was the only thing I was competing like, oh, y'all got to that BDP. You know what I'm saying? That's all straight pro-black, 5% conscious rap. Like, you know, some of these guys are saying the white guy's the devil. You know what I'm saying? And this is the rap that you're growing up on sonically that's influenced you. And then you end up in a group where you're working with Zach De La Rocha and Killer Mike, and it's like you by default, it's like it's almost like, so even it doesn't matter if you're actively trying to make sure that you're trying to be a good ally, but not putting yourself in conversations that you feel like you might be overstepping in.
No, what I meant by that was that it was never my inclination to play up that aspect of what I was and what it was about. And I always wanted to just be a voice and a writer and an artist, you know? And so I really never engaged with that question of, well, what was it like for you? Because you're white, and this is, and it was just something that I'm just not particularly even really that great at answering, because I've always been focused on trying to just make records where, you know, you know, you can listen to my shit and not feel like I am someone else other than I am,
That's
or
right.
attempting to be someone else other than. And you know, growing up on all that music was really interesting for me because it really opened my fucking mind, man. I don't know if I hadn't had rap music, I don't know as a middle-class white kid, you know, that I would have been exposed. Even, I don't know how long it would have taken me to be exposed to the truth. I think it helped in the lifting of the veil. And you know, when you're growing up, you know, we all grow up in our communities with things that are put upon us, and some good, some bad. A lot of them are perspective, you know, and. I don't know how long it would have taken me if I didn't have rap music to realize that there was a whole hell of a lot of bullshit that was being.
Rap has done that for a lot of. I mean, it does that definitely for people of color, but you know, you hear those testimonies from white people all the time. That it becomes, you know.
You know, music is amazing in that regard. You know what I mean? It's like you wonder sometimes. I wonder sometimes. How people can be fans of rap music.
But not fan of black people?
That's
Or a fan of our culture, or a fan of wearing our clothes, or a fan of selling do-rags for $10 million, or kente cloth, all of that.
If empathy and connection doesn't come with it, then what's the goddamn point, is what I'm saying. And so, you know, where I grew up, the way I grew up, the people I had, the circle of friends that I had, you know, just came from, a lot of it just came from just going to school in Brooklyn and just being, yeah, man, I feel very grateful that assisted in pulling the veil away from my eyes, and it all ended up contributing essentially to my political perspective. That feeling that something was wrong.
Yeah.
That feeling that something was a lie. That feeling that we are being told, we are being there's a false reality being spun for us, and we're asking to participate in it. And very young, I started rejecting that, and it got me into a lot of trouble. It got me kicked out of schools. You know, it got me my life shaken up to the point where, you know, and I kind of went a little crazy. Even I feel like I had a period of time where I felt a real rush of having this thing lifted and being like, fuck, it's all a lie.
So Colors, I'd moved to LA in '82 to go to school, to go to CalArts to study acting. And
From Kansas City?
Yeah, from Denver. Kansas City, then Denver.
Okay.
Kansas City, Lincoln, Nebraska, Denver.
Okay,
yeah, and then,
traveling man.
Yeah. So I got this, you know, I moved out here and I really didn't know anything about the LA culture. When I auditioned for CalArts, which is where I went to college, I stayed with my cousin in Pasadena. And I came out and he was like, "Oh, you can't wear that blue shirt." I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. He's like, "No, you can't."
Right.
They trip over the blue shirts and red, blue and red. I was like, "You have got to be joking." People don't care about what color shirt you got on. They're like, "No, for real, you got to take that shirt off."
Right.
So
I had that experience too coming to LA.
It's
Me
wild.
too. I got banged on.
Oh, for real?
I live in a blood neighborhood, and I was wearing like this big ass blood red bubble coat walking down the street. It was my own fault.
They're like, "Who are you? What
Right.
set you?" Claim you're like, "No, I just like the
no.
jacket." They're like, "No, you can't just like the
I
jacket."
just start cheesing like I don't know.
But so you know, I kind of when I did the movie, it was, you know, I was steeped in cryptum and bloodation, and it was day one. I got it in my wardrobe, and you know, I'm all blued out, head to foot. And I'm sitting on this park bench, and I'm just kind of waiting because we're getting ready to shoot. And this dude comes walking by, and I'm just kind of looking at him, you know, like, "Oh, I wonder if he's an actor." No, he was not. He was not an actor, and he was not acting. Right. His name was J-Bone, and he was for real. And he saw me, and I just looked back at him, and he started walking, you know, just mean mugging me, just walking over to me. And I was like, "Damn, I'm supposed to be the leader of the Crips. I can't get punked." Day one.
Right. In front of your fake game.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, wow, either I'm gonna die or this is gonna be a real interesting moment. So he just walked all the way up to me. He's like, "What's up, cuz?" I was like, "Yo, what's up?" He's like, "What set you with, man?" I was like, "Well, what set you claiming?" I was like, I'm just an actor." He's like, "All right, I just wanna see what the fuck was up." I was like, "Okay." And then he left, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be a very interesting movie.
Right.
And then it became, then as things went on, we were shooting one day, and it was 2, 3 in the morning. Everybody's tired, punch drunk. It's the scene where we do the drive-by on the blood. And I'm supposed to tell him to shut the fuck up in the thing, right? So J-Bo's sitting behind me in the thing, and we get ready to do the shot, and I'm like, man, shut the fuck up. And we cut, and he's like, shut the fuck, you sound soft as fuck. Sound like a punch, shut the fuck up. And so I'm like, no, we gotta do this thing for real. So then I was like, for real, J-Bo, shut the fuck up, for real.
Right.
He's like, what? He's like, I'll smoke you in this car right now. I'm like, I'm about to get killed on the set of a movie
Wow.
for saying my lines as an actor in a scene.
Art imitating life.
Yeah.
Imitating art, imitating life.
Yeah, it was bad. But so there were many incidents like that, because all the extras were really Crips.
I wanted this lyric on your album from Nip. So I'll probably die on these streets, but I'll live through my name.
Yeah.
That's a prophecy.
Of course it is.
Yes.
Not to cut you off.
Please.
Him saying that night, me hearing his verse saying that, is sound like If I Die Tonight from Tupac. You don't know what that is unless somebody actually perishes. Going back to hear it after Nip passed, I didn't. When I first heard the news that he passed, even weeks after, I still hadn't thought about what he said on the album. That was not the vein I was in. I was missing my friend, and I was still in shock that Tupac happened while I was coexisting in hip hop with Tupac, which I felt like Nip was. Somebody cut off way too early that nigga Nip had your knowledge. But he didn't give it in music. He gave the streets, but that was his first album.
Yeah.
If Nip had
Victory
9
Lap
albums
was
like
crazy.
Game, you would have heard Black Thought or Talib or Mos Def speaking through Nip, and so his albums are in his interviews. If you want to hear, a classic Nipsey album, compile 12 interviews, put them together and listen to him. Man, he was so fucking so far ahead of even myself. For him to be taking that early, man, it's such a travesty, man, because I know what a 9 album or a 10-year later Nipsey would have done for hip hop as a culture. You started to see him in suits. You started to see him transition to having Rock Nation brunches and him standing next to Meek Mill, Yo Gotti, Jay-Z, and and all those guys. You started to see him do things that I haven't even done yet, and that means that intellectually, in hip hop, unselfishly, he was ready to give knowledge and anything else he could. He didn't give a fuck about being rich or none of that. He just was collecting what was owed to him. And I remember when he dropped Victory Lap, and I posted it, and he called me, and he was like, "Man, you are everything as a brother to me. Everything." He was like, "I got all these little, everybody posted. But when I saw yours, it took me back to that first day I met you. You know what I'm saying? So
Tell us about that day.
The day I met Nip?
Yeah.
If you've been in LA long enough, you've been here 6 years, you've been here long fucking time, you know that our freeways run 110, 105, 405, 101. It's a square. I took the 105 and I got off on Crenshaw. Reason I got off on Crenshaw, because there are bitches on Crenshaw.
It's over by me.
Up and down. Not only are there bitches on Crenshaw, this is the street in Boys in the Hood where like niggas had the confrontation. This is the street where on Sunday nights throughout my whole childhood, my dad, my uncles, my brothers would come, park their Impala, get out, and people would congregate. It's Crenshaw. I had a white Range Rover. I'm 28. At this time, like, I'm Doctor's Advocate is out. I'm 2 albums in. I'm not going nowhere. I want to get off the freeway, see some bitches, smoke some weed, maybe find a problem. I got a Glock on my lap, maybe. If niggas is tripping, I want my whole LA hip hop rapper nigga experience and show off this Range Rover. Young, dumb nigga shit. But that's what I wanted to do.
You was the baby.
Exactly.
You gotta show up the Range Rover.
Exactly. So this day, it was my point to not get stopped at any red lights in Crip hoods while I was rolling. At all. For some reason, I feel like the lights get longer. When you get stopped at them motherfuckers, they never turn green, and they just want you to like death. I feel like it's a nigga controlling the lights that just like,
Die.
there you go, kill this nigga. And these niggas did not go through this yellow, bro. They stopped. And when they stopped, I said, "This is crazy." Crenshaw
Wait,
and
but you gotta
Slauson.
tell them that people go through the yellows in LA. So
Oh, people go through the yellows till it's red. Like motherfuckers just keep on going. So I'm like, why does this nigga stop? I couldn't go around because there was a car coming up from the back. So I'm stuck at this light. Who on the corner? 1560s Crips.
Wow.
I don't fuck with these scenarios. 15 young ass Crips on the corner and these niggas are crossing the street. For what reason, God, I don't even fucking know. But they're coming straight at my car. Niggas went from crossing in the crosswalk. This is my car. Niggas went from crossing the crosswalk that goes this way. Nigga, I'm right here behind 2 other cars. Them niggas turned. And then when they turned, they started getting close. And right when Nip got right where you are, the nigga whipped out a CD. I was like, oh my God.
Thank God.
A nigga with a demo.
Right.
Nip pulled it out. I rolled my window down. And Nip is tall. Nip was like 6'3". So Nip looked in the car and he saw I had a Glock on my lap. The nigga's like, I can see in his eyes that he said to himself, game a real nigga. Like, he out here. He was like, hey, cuz, my name Nip. And we the Slauson boys. Almost like if I met Run DMC.
Wow.
These niggas had confidence on 100. I don't care if they was just, if it just mattered in they hood, you could see the confidence in Nip. I took the CD and then he was like, nigga, you a real one, cuz. I put the CD in my car and then I called him. I was like, yo, Nip, you got a number on here? He was like, it's on the back, cuz. Confidence though. Not like, you know.
Right, not
he
being
was like,
Stuttering.
no, the nigga just turned around. He didn't even come back to the car. The nigga turned around. He's like, it's on the back, cuz. So I took the CD, I put it in, and I'm like, man, this nigga sound like a fucking lyrical like Snoop. Not sound like Snoop. But, and I just seen the nigga and he looked like Snoop.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the first thing I said. I was like, man, this nigga look like Snoop. And I told Snoop, I said, Snoop, I met a nigga that looked like you. Like, I called Snoop.
Right.
And Snoop was like, was that nigga named Nipsey Hussle, cuz? And he was like, cuz, everywhere. So I'm like, I took the CD and later on that night, I called the number. I'm like, you know, come to the studio. But he came to the studio and we did They Roll. And we did like 2 other songs and They Roll ended up being on, you know, Nipsey shit. And so yeah, that's how I met Nip.
You left the show
I
to
did.
take care of your father.
I did.
And I imagine that was a very difficult decision.
Yeah, actually, no,
No,
it
okay.
wasn't. I've never been someone that's impressed with fame. I've
Okay.
never wanted it. I've never chased it. We all got to pay bills, so I do enjoy making a paycheck. So I was concerned about making a living, but I wasn't concerned about where I made the living. And I
Right.
knew that the way the show was set up, it was not conducive to me taking care of my dad. And
That's right.
you know, I'm family first, so that was not
Right.
a hard decision for me at all.
I think you're unique with that, though.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are in this business are chasing fame.
Yeah, I think it's vapor. I
Yeah.
think fame is a trick. It's a trick. It's a trap.
It's
and
fleeting.
It's fleeting, and it's not even real. It's not even that it's fleeting. It's not real. It is a mist that you can get caught in, and you can think matters, and it doesn't. I see people like doing all this stuff for the gram and securing the bag. All of this crap is vapor.
Yeah.
And it's the relationships you have with people. It's the good you do in this world. Those things are what matter. I don't care if 1 million people I don't know who I am. You know what I mean? It's nice. I mean, thank you, but that doesn't help me sleep at night if I'm not a decent person. Your soul is what matters. Your kindness level matters. Do you take care of people? Do you fight the good fight even when it doesn't benefit you? Those are the things that people should be famous for, not the jeans they wear and the songs they sing. That's
what
dumb.
you do when no one's looking.
Come on.
What you said was very important because there's a difference between fame and infamy. And I think in this society, especially with the Instagram and stuff, people think, this is what I run into when you and me, we argue online sometimes.
We do.
Right?
We chop it up. We chop it up.
Oh, gosh.
What people sometimes criticize me for.
Yeah.
And we can get into the online stuff later, but I wanted for what you said.
Yeah.
They say you're giving these people a platform.
That's what they
right?
say. That's what they say.
And my pushback to that is that what you're telling me is that you value fame too much. And as someone who's been famous for quite some time, let me tell you, it's not all it's cracked up to
really
be.
not.
Me being a famous person doesn't make me a better person.
Come on.
So the idea that you're saying, well, you're giving this person fame and shame that devil every time. I want every racist to be famous.
I agree.
So that when we
That
see
we
them
all
coming,
know.
we know
Yep.
exactly what they look like, what
Yep.
they're wearing, what they
I
smell
agree.
like, what they're going to say.
I agree.
And people are run from that because they value fame so much. They see
Yeah.
fame as a virtue.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why are you treating these people? You're making
Don't
them
put them on a
famous. And
pedestal.
Right.
That's not
And
always
they
a good
also
thing.
tell you and me and other people not to speak up because it's like, you got to protect your brand. Come on now.
Right.
Like, first of all, my brand is rebuttal. Anybody that know me knows that. I remember Tank said we were on the set of a New Edition movie, and he just said to me, "You are built for rebuttal," and I am. My whole life I've been built for rebuttal, and I'm gonna fight every good fight.
That's right.
amazing.
I don't care what I lose. I've said all the time, I am a legal secretary by trade, and McDonald's is always hiring. So if speaking the truth and fighting for what's right means that I lose fans or lose a career, bye. It's just not that deep.
You know, when I was doing your intro, I mentioned The Departed.
Yeah.
And Martin Scorsese, who recently said that Marvel films are like amusement parks, which I was like, I love amusement parks.
They are, though.
Who doesn't like going to the amusement
the
park?
water, you're moving the chairs.
So he was accurate about that, but he cast you for The Departed, which, I mean, Martin Scorsese has so many good films.
Yes.
So many good films. And that's no slouch.
No.
That's one of the top ones.
Yeah.
How did you get that part?
I have a brain fart right now. I can't remember the casting director's name for the movie, but she called me in, and this is a crazy story. And I get a call back. Martin Scorsese is going to be in town for the Oscars, and he wants to see you. And he is staying at the Bel Air Hotel. At the time, I was on the television show called The Shield.
Okay.
And we were out in South Central, like on 80-something, and we were in the hood. My audition was at 3:30. I'm in South Central LA. Martin Scorsese is in Bel Air. Drive time, bumper to bumper traffic.
It's LA.
How am I going to get to the Bel Air Hotel from 86 and Western?
Oh my God.
In rush hour traffic. This was my dilemma a day or two before my call back.
This is like a Scorsese film right here. Yeah. The story.
So I'm like, yo, what are we gonna do? My manager was like, yo, man, we can get an ambulance, we can get a motorcycle. I was like, yo, no, you know what? Let's get a helicopter. I said, I'm close to downtown LA. I can drive to downtown LA. Get it on one of these high-rise buildings and fly to Century City, and that'll put me right there at Bel Air. Well, because of 9/11, you have to have a 3-day advance notice on either end of your travel when flying in LA on helicopters now. So that was 86th. So I was like, damn, what are we going to do? My manager came up with a great idea. We got an ambulance. We got an ambulance to take you.
Wow.
They can't turn on the siren. They can't run through traffic because it's not an emergency. But we found it. I was like, well, why the hell they want to drive me around then if they can't turn on the siren?
Point.
So I was like, okay, we can't do that. So we go back to a driver, and I was like, well, yeah, but that was still stuck in traffic. I can get you a motorcycle. You can get on the back. You can weave in out of traffic. And I was like, yeah, but I need to study these lines. So we went with the driver. Fast forward to the day of, they post a PA outside of my dressing room door on my lunch break, and she stops me as I'm walking out. She was like, where are you going? Because I have a driver there now. Right. I was like, I'm going to my meeting. She was like, oh, no, you can't. I was like, who the fuck are you?
Whoa.
Right.
I was like, nah. I said, it's my lunch break, right? She said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll see you when lunch is over.
Right.
So I get in the car. The brother will not speed or do anything.
The worst driver
for
in
me
life.
in this. And I was like, man, I was like, dog, I said, I have an hour to get from 86 and Western to Bel Air, audition, and back in rush hour traffic. I need you to do something for me, dog. He wouldn't do anything. I get to the Bel Air Hotel. It's a who's who of every white actor that you've ever seen in your life for this Martin Scorsese film. I'm the only brother there.
Wow.
And they're auditioning for other characters and all of that. So I get in, casting director says, Anthony, Martin will see you now. So I get in, I'm like, okay. I'm like, Mr. Scorsese. He's like, call me Marty. I was like, okay, Marty. And so we're going through, and I was like, yo, I'm just a fan. And he starts blushing. He's like, oh, stop. I was like, no, I just had to say that because of your work and all that, but let's get to business. We go through our audition. We read 2 scenes, and he has a stack of papers and scripts in front of him. He just starts looking for shit. He's looking, and he can't find it. And I was like, what are you looking for? He said, there's another scene that I want you to do. I said, I can't find it. And I said, hey, Marty. I said, this is what you can do. I said, give me the job, and I'll read whatever you want me to read on the day. He laughs. He said, I like that. So we leave. The casting director walks me out. I give her a hug to thank her for bringing me in. And during my embrace, she says, Anthony, you're in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
I said, what? She said, the job is yours. You're the only one I brought in for this character.
Yes.
Wow.
I get in the car with the brother. I said, take your time going back.
Word up. I'm coming around the table.
That's sweet.
In 2000, you were arrested at Newark Airport with $1.4 million worth of liquid cocaine. How did you get from the Fugees to that moment, and can you describe and walk us through that moment?
Sure. So Fugees, huge success. Plaques awarded. I'm being groomed for my solo project, which comes out in 97.
You're talking about Poli-Sci.
Poli-Sci.
Yeah.
Poli-Sci. So that comes out. A whole bunch of things happen within the label system. My product manager is I don't know if she's fired or transitioned the week before the album comes out. The short of it is that it's a brick, right? Critical acclaim, commercial disappointment. All in all, around 80,000 copies sold.
So yeah, 80,000 copies now is a huge success.
Right.
So the industry has completely changed.
Right, 80,000 copies. After the score, after Clef's Carnival and Staying Alive is a brick.
Right.
So for me, instead of kind of looking in the mirror and self-examining, saying, well, what can we do to right this ship? I didn't look in the mirror at all. I looked everywhere except the mirror, but the mirror. And I said, everyone around me from management probably down, as close to flow failed me, right? In what would be my first real disappointment, arguably in life. Right? Like this brick where somebody's like, well, no, you know what? You're not as talented as you think you are. You're not as smart. You're not as fly. You're not as ...
Right. And Poli-Sci had DMX on it.
DMX, Fat Joe. Like so for me, Poli-Sci was like formulaic. I was like, I'm ticking
Production
boxes.
was slick.
Yeah.
Good. The video was crazy.
Right. Like we had budgets.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like at the end of the day, and I remember showing up to these studios at 10 p.m. But I was supposed to be there at 6 p.m. and then not leaving until maybe so. Thinking that I was in my zone, in my mode. But I created that album in a vacuum. Like I created that album in a vacuum. I didn't ask many people for ears or what do you think? I was like, I know this is fresh, right? So I brought people in, but I didn't do too much outreach. So that that happened, and I went up to the label and I voiced my frustrations.
In fine fashion.
In fine, eloquent, inoffensive fashion.
Right.
Which led to me getting dropped from the label. Which I thought was, again, divine intervention. I said, that's fine. You want to drop me? That's cool. I'm going to do this on my own, And as I tell this story, I say the universe conspires to help the dreamer, right? It gives you what you want. So that coincided with me meeting an individual who had an operation, and he said, well, hey, you're connected to a lot of people. I would love for your people to meet my people. And that led to me involving myself in that operation, being a middleman, connecting him to couriers to transport whatever needed transporting. And that house of cards fell. It wasn't me signing up to that to all of a sudden change professions. I wasn't like, all right, well, now I'm going to do. I was compartmentalizing and justifying it because I was going into the studio. I was using whatever I had to. I'm going to make this.
This is how much your art meant to you.
It was. I have to create, and I've got to get this out. So I'm going to take these risks, and I took those risks. And one day at Newark Airport, when I went to pick up two of the couriers, which was something that I'd never done. Up until that point, I was a middleman. I was hands off. What I didn't realize as I was picking them up was that I was going into a controlled delivery. It was a sting. They were cooperating with the feds. I didn't know. Our conversations from the time that they were apprehended were recorded. And when they picked me up, they just bagged me. Time stood still that day. And then, everything changed.
You have another song that's great, Arrest the President.
Yeah.
I love this fucking record. Donald Trump, you have one of my favorite quotes in the Trump era to describe Donald Trump. And because of how nuanced your quote was, I think people try to use your quote against you and weaponize your quote.
Yeah.
And you said, Donald Trump is what America aspires to be, the American dream. He looks like a boss to everybody, and Americans love to have a boss.
Yes.
I got that.
Yeah.
What do you think it was that people didn't get about how you were critiquing Trump in that moment?
I guess it was too close for them to see.
Right.
Or it digs too deep. But, every American want to be rich and tell the whole world to, fuck off.
Right.
Do what the hell I want to do. It's my damn money.
Right. Right.
King of this, my house.
Right.
I'm the man here. Who the man? I'm the man. Who put this thing together? Me. That's who. Right. Everybody that's it.
Right.
He's the caricature of that. He's the epitome of that. He's that disgusting, arrogant, greedy American pig.
That's right.
And hey, a lot of people aspire to be that. That's why I said what I said about him. I don't see why you can't see a guy like that coming a mile away. But a lot of people want to be that in their, in their alter egos, in their, fantasies of being a king one day, or having all the money, or whatever people fantasize to be. That's, when you really think about it, that is the American dream.
One of the realest moments I've ever seen on television, much less that TV show.
I know what you're talking about.
You already know where I'm going with
Snoop.
this. Yep.
What you mean?
That was one of the realest moments, and this is what's real about it, is that Snoop was communicating with you, and Snoop was communicating with you in a language that is unique to Los Angeles.
Yep.
And he was pressuring you, and he was testing you, and you knew it, and he knew it, and people who knew but y'all didn't explain it.
Nope.
The show didn't take time to explain it. So on this show, I would like you to take time to explain in that moment what was happening and what you was thinking when Snoop was like, but where you from, though?
All right, let me start off by saying, I know I'm not explaining this for you.
Okay, right.
We're gonna explain it for the cameras.
That's right.
Because you know what that was.
I know exactly what that was.
Let's start by saying Snoop didn't ask everybody that.
He asked you when you said you were from Inglewood.
He asked what I think before I said I was from Inglewood, I think he already wanted to ask.
Right.
And I think it speaks to the energy and, again, to use your word, the authenticity behind what I presented in my art, in my performance, right? So Snoop, he didn't ask anybody else, which means he was moved in a different way, which means in his world, he's familiar with that energy coming from that place.
It's like that question I asked you about the pro-blackness. That you move in a way where people would think, oh, this is just a street nigga.
Period.
And they not seeing all the other stuff that comes with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm an intersection of all that shit in the same box, like church, street, music, art, you know what I'm saying? Fighting, so, but I think Snoop saw that. And I think it was a line. I didn't mean to look at Snoop. I said, I didn't mean to look at Snoop, but I think I looked at him when I was like, if you don't like it, then fight me. Go meet the heel of my Nikes. You know what I'm saying? And so I think part of it could have been like, okay, he up there, he got that energy. Right. And he said that.
He did you like this too. He did.
Yep. I don't know if that part made the cut, but he said, I could tell you got that energy.
Yeah, he said.
And that's the way he set it up. He had already paid me the compliments before, and I think people forget that. He had said, obviously what you're doing is diverse. It's real. I love what you're doing. But let me ask you something.
Right.
So the setup is already like, despite how you feel about how I'm pressing you, you know, it's like, I see what you're doing and I respect it. Let's just get this little formality out the way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a LA thing. And it's not, and I'm not foreign to it. And the thing about it is, the reason I could stand up and without budging being like, I'm from Inglewood, is because there were real life-threatening moments where that was the case. This was not life-threatening.
This is television.
This is television. And not that, but Snoop got that energy where it's like, cameras done disappeared now.
That's the OG.
It's two men in the room.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of being somebody like the legend that is Snoop Dogg. Me and Snoop shot a video yesterday. Snoop has this way of erasing the extra and bringing everybody home. And in that moment, home was LA. In the video, Snoop is in the middle of Inglewood, the biggest crip in the game, showing love and the blood's coming out. Man, Uncle Snoop. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? The Bloods who told us, like, you're not going to have no problem on this block today. You know, they walking up to Snoop, like, and he giving them game, chopping it up. What's up, nephew? Snoop brought the taco truck out and told everybody, don't pull out no money. This is good already. Everything they got in there is yours. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the duty is. And I knew when he was asking that, it wasn't him pressing me. It was more like, go ahead, tell him what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it was just, I agree with you. I haven't seen no moment like that on television.
Yeah.
Not, especially unscripted. We create them and we put them together sometimes brilliantly. Like Straight Outta Compton is scripted.
Yeah.
But then they did such a good job of casting to where it's like, you don't lose none of that authentic energy.
That's right.
But unscripted, nothing has happened like that unscripted.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because everybody knows that it's like, you know, I even paused for a second to decide how I was going to answer.
I see all that. You can see all that.
Because I could have been like, well, my brother from here, and I grew up right over here, and they got my back. But it's like, you asked me the same question, so you're going to get the same answer. And that's man shit to me. Like, I'm not switching unless you switch. If you say, okay, what block though? Manchester and Fifth Ave. You know what I'm saying? Park Circle. You know what I'm saying? Who you know? All the bros over here. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't switch the question, so I didn't switch the answer. And then his immediate response was, respect, cuz. You know what I'm saying? Like, you stood your ground. And it's been that ever since. Because somebody at his level, you got to test that part of a man before you decide to fool with him. Ever since, I can't say I have any bigger ally in the game.
That's Snoop.
Than Snoop.
24 Hours to Live. Who came up with the concept for that song? Was that Steve? That's his shit. I wrote that on the paper. He was like, yo, I was thinking the same shit. Who came up with the concept, and what was it like to compete with so many young, hungry, but formidable MCs on that track?
That was Mace. That was all Mace. I think that was all Mace's idea. That was his song. And we was on a block. We was on a block at the time. We had probably just been signing Bad Boy for 6 months. So we was still in the hood, and we got the call. We happened to all be together anyway, so we got the call to come down and do a song on Mace's album. When we got there, we heard the concept. He already had a verse. Then me, Styles, and Sheik, you know, went in separate corners, wrote our verse. Black Rob wrote his verse. And
I could feel the competitive energy though on that record.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that session didn't seem too competitive due to the nature of the content of the song was already there, and everybody had different, you know, views of what they would do if they had 24 hours to live. So that wasn't too much pressure. I made some sessions that felt a little more pressurized, but that wasn't really one of them. That was like a fun, you know, we was like brothers doing that. Even Mason, Rob, we all, you know, we was happy to be on Bad Boy at the time.
Right.
So
it was the hottest shit out.
Anything they threw at us, we was just trying to knock it down.
Right.
People say that Talib shouldn't argue with racists on Twitter. What do you feel about that as being his friend?
Oh, it's wonderful. Like I said before, it's bar exercise for an MC. I see him, and every time I peep Talib's responses, and I'm saying, yo, that's a joint. That's a jam later on down the line. I said, and you know, when you get song ideas, it's not like I'm gonna go get song ideas. It got to come to you. But I'm pretty sure in some of your tweets, you're like, oh,
yeah, I do save some of them. Like that's a bar,
right?
And it makes it in a bar later. That happens
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. He's not just and then. The basis of MCs and the whole thing is find an enemy anyway. You know, me, I didn't find a person as an enemy. I found an existence as something for me to be ferocious and attack. So it was sort of like, you know, anonymous, invisible, but it was a thing. It was a stigma. It was a reality. It was like, you know, Public Enemy is going to attack racism. It's going to, I mean, on our first album, Yo Bummer's the Show. We all in this together, foot in the door. The government's responsible is the underpin,
right?
And like, go at it. This is in the middle of R&B, man, and that's Reagan and Bush.
Now, Rebel Without a Pause, you say you shout out Asada Shakur, but you call her Chesamard. Was that coded? Because only people who really knew the movement would have known her name.
Chesamard sounded better.
Okay, it was an artistic choice.
Hard. Chesamard. Okay, I mean, you know, as an MC, man, there's certain things, man, that if you grab a word. And you grab the word by its tail.
You write around it too.
Nail it. And you know, they would have to look up, you know, Asada.
It's education.
And understand, this is 87.
That's what I'm saying. Like it was early.
I'm affected by when the feds trapped Asada Shakur.
Yeah.
You know, we're present, you know, in this when it all happened in Jersey. And it was just something. It's you know, you write half the song and the song writes the other half, and there's some things that you can't explain.
Your father's Haitian, your mother's Jewish.
Sakbase L'Haim.
There you go. The alt-right probably can't stand you. You're like the comedy version of Drake.
Yes.
You're like, but you're also an atheist.
Yeah.
For people who don't understand what a Jewish atheist is, explain that.
I'd say I'm atheist agnostic. I'm more, I mean, I don't like the term atheist because it has such a triggering term for people to be like, well, what do you mean? I kind of just don't believe in anything, but I'm also agnostic because I'm like, who am I? What do I know? You could be just as right as me. I'm not militant about it, I don't think. But I identify as a Jew ethnically. Jews were like pushed to Siberia for thousands of years, so we developed our own culture and ethnicity, kind of. So I'm proud of being a Jew. I love Larry David and Sigmund Freud. But
I like those people too.
I'm not religious. I don't believe in anything.
I feel like there's a lot of Jews in the room who agree. You know what I'm saying?
That I
don't want to Jew-splain.
I don't wear the hat or read the book. I mean, have you ever cracked open the Bible? It's like, don't eat shrimp. It gave Joshua a stomach ache. You're like, what?
I love your Bible impersonation.
Well, it's just a bunch of like confused Jews in the desert from 5,000 years ago, like doing magic tricks for each other.
Now, RZA said that Method Man gets along with everybody, right? Yeah. And you also featured with Pac on Got My Mind Made Up, and I've read you talking about how that could have been an uncomfortable conversation with Big because you were so close to Big, but you didn't. It's not like you wasn't in the studio with Pac when he recorded it, right? Like you had recorded your verses and then Pac jumped on it when he got out of jail. Is that accurate?
No, but I wanted to make that clear to Big when I seen him, and I did. But I also let him know that I would have probably jumped on that song any motherfucking way and shit. You know what I mean? What people failed to understand was a lot of people, and even to this day, I hate when they say East Coast, West Coast. There wasn't no East Coast, West Coast thing. We was out there. We was actually out there when all that shit was going on. Wu-Tang was living there in the fucking Oakwoods.
I seen the video. Recently seen the video of you out there when BG Knockout and them got in that fight. Y'all was at the golf.
We was out there by ourselves. Me and Redman. We was out there by ourselves and shit. Wasn't no East Coast. If it was, then we would have felt it right then and there. Them niggas could have whooped our ass. We was by ourselves. And the whole fucking dog pound was there. You know what I'm saying? Nate Dogg is a G. But at the end of the day, the Pac song, that happened. Because I was real tight with Daz, Corrupt, Snoop, you know, and they would come scoop me anytime I came to LA, checking in, like, yo, I'm here. What's good? But anyway, Daz came and scooped me up. I had Deck with me that day, and Doc was there too. We all, you know, we made a day of it because we just went there. His wife cooked. We was eating and shit, smoking, playing the game and shit, and then niggas started writing. And the original song had Rage on it. So, you know, it started off with Daz, then the part where Pac was rhyming, that was Rage, then Corrupt, myself, Redman, then Deck. I just got somebody just sent me that shit too. Deck's verse on that record. He murdered that shit. Should have kept it on there, but the record was too long. But yeah, that's how the record came about. So Pac gets released. And Death Row's such a family at this point in time. They like, look, Pac just came home. He got this wave. Whatever we got, we going to give it to him. The way Daz, now I'm going to take it from where Daz took it. Daz was like, Dre told Tupac, yeah, I got a song with Meth and Red on it. Talking about he got one, but it was actually Daz's motherfucking song.
Right.
But Daz being the person that he is, he was like, yeah, you know, I give the nigga the song, let the nigga have it and shit. You know, they let Pac have it. So we didn't actually record the record with Pac, but Pac was, dare I say, such a fan. And this says a lot about whether he had any animosity towards East Coast rappers because he wouldn't have did that record. You know what I'm saying? He wanted that record. Dre told him the lineup before he got it. I got Redman and I want that record. Yeah, bring that in. Daz brought it in. The rest is history. When I actually did meet Pac, this is when it was at the height of shit, and it was so ugly, man. Like, I didn't even want to go to Cali to the Soul Train Awards that year. You know what I'm saying? But I went. And on the flight out to Cali, Suge was on our flight, leaving New York. He was on our flight and shit. You know what I'm saying? He ain't say nothing to a nigga and shit. I ain't say nothing to him. But when he got off the plane, he was getting off, he got up to get his bags and shit. He looked over, gave the head nod. I gave him the head nod back. So, takes it to later on that night. I'm on fucking mushrooms. I done smoked a little half a clip of dust blunt, all kind of shit. I'm fucked up right now. I'm up in the corner like this, and that was hitting me. It's like, wait a minute, nigga. You in there, you out here by your motherfucking self. You don't know none of these motherfuckers and shit. So now I'm up, and this is you remember how the hard rock, what was the name of that spot? House of Blues.
Yeah, House of Blues.
House of Blues. They used to do the pre-party there all the time. So now I'm up in a booth like this, paranoid like a motherfucker. I'm on mescalines and shit. I'm bugging the fuck out. One person came by, took me up out of that shit. Queen Latifah. Dana walked by. She looked. She was like, "Is that meth?" She's like, "What the fuck is you doing in that corner?" And that shit took me right out of that space. From that, for the rest of the night, I had a great time. Great time. Then the lights came on, and I'm about to leave. Somebody tapped my shoulder. I turn around. It's Pac. He there with Suge. Now the whole time Pac is talking, I can't concentrate. There's so many people and so many cameras in the faces and shit. All I could hear is what I got out of the conversation that he was telling me was, if we fuck with anybody on the East Coast, it'll be y'all Wu-Tang niggas. We fucks with y'all Wu-Tang niggas type shit. And something about RZA chain. I don't remember what that was. But what I kept looking at was the light gleaming off that Death Row chain. And Suge with the cigar smoke, just looking. So as soon as he said peace, we walked up out of that bitch. I shit you not, man. I was so high. I was behind Pink Dot on Sunset. Right across the street. We went behind Pink Dot, stood there and talked about the night for like an hour before we even left.
I want to send a big rest in power, rest in peace to Mike Brown. Before we start talking about what you and me were talking about in Ferguson, you know, the takeaway for me that I was most critical of myself is that our argument and our conflict may have in that moment overshadowed what we were there to talk about, which was Mike Brown and the police brutality. But I do want to give a bit of the backstory for that exchange. It's the most viral thing I've ever been a part of. You said that to me right after. You're like, you know this going viral, right? You rolled up on a skateboard. I thought that was down to earth, but that's the backstory for why I was like, when we was arguing, I was like, yo, you skated up here, so people don't know that you showed up on a skateboard. But the producer had told me I was going to be interviewed by Anderson Cooper. And for that reason, I was surprised when you showed up and they said, do you mind being interviewed by Don Lemon? I didn't have an opinion on you at that time, but I knew you were a black man in the media, so I was excited about that. But I feel like both of us were put in a very high pressure situation. You coming in to do something that Anderson was about to do, me not knowing anything about you. During our argument, after mentioning that you didn't greet me before we went on air, I took offense to the statement, I invited you to the show. Knowing the backstory, I didn't quite love the implication that you invited me to the show directly, which is why I stated that. But unfortunately, again, me saying that, I think distracted from my actual point and took away from the focus of Mike Brown. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. I think that the same thing in this time, that we don't need two black men fighting who have platform. We need to have unity and speak in one singular voice. Not that we can't have different opinions about things, but when I say one voice, I mean we need to be supportive of each other, because there's power in numbers and there's power in communities and strength and all of that. But so I'm glad you said that, because I didn't think that you understood the backstory for me. Okay. Because, from what I could remember from that moment, I think I found out like maybe 30 minutes, if that far, before the interview, because Anderson was stuck at another interview and they called me. I was on another story and they said, because the whole Ferguson thing was so stressful between live shots and shows, I would just skate to try to get my head together. Like, this is so deep. And I would just skate. But I was actually at another interview, and the skateboard was a mode of transportation to get there fast, so that I could do this show. And quite honestly, there were people who were behind the scenes who weren't sure if they wanted, they thought, ooh, I don't know if we want to have him on, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yes, I want to hear his voice. And so they called me late to do this thing. And so my work is in this phone. So I'm going over the research about you, what you said, what you wanted to talk about, the rundown of the show, who's on, who's my producer. I'm looking at that in my phone. So when I rolled up, I said hello to you. I probably, I could have been like, oh, get a big hug or whatever. But in my head, I'm like, I got to get the show. I got to get my IFB on. I got to get hair and makeup. I got to get all this together. And so I'm thinking, and I'm looking at my phone, not out of disrespect, but out of respect, because I'm trying to make sure that I tell your story in the best way possible. And so I agree with you that it was distracting. It caused me a lot. I got disinvited from the cookout because people didn't understand where I was coming from. But that whole time that we were doing that, people were in my ear going rap, 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 and I'm saying, no, I'm not.
I want to thank you for that.
This is good.
I want to thank you for that, because I was heated in that moment, but I did acknowledge, and the moment when the conversation changed is when you said out loud to the producers, hang on, this is important. And when you said that, it made me feel the same way I felt when I just described you taking care of Bubba Wallace. I said, okay, we're back on the same page now. Even though we might disagree, even though I'm still hot, at least I know that we're on the same team now. You know what I'm saying?
I knew you were hot, and I wanted people to hear that. And there was only one thing that I think that you said something, and I said, and I wanted you to, I was saying it because I wanted you to go on and explain your side. And I think I was saying, but the police say this, and you're like, this is not about the police. And
that's exactly right. That's why I got triggered at.
Yeah, but but that's what you could, But anyway, it's water under the bridge. But you could have said, like, I was trying to give you an opportunity to state your side. So I understood that you were angry. Listen, and that I've got the skin of an armadillo. That goes with the territory. But I think people got a wrong impression about me after that interview that wasn't necessarily true. But it is what it is. Here we are. I'm cool.
Dilla made the beat for one of your biggest songs, Delight. When you heard that beat, did you realize how big that song would be?
You know what? I felt like this song, you ever listen to some music and it takes you, like, it gives you an out of body experience. Like, you feel like, man, this is, I was getting like that feeling of, it's certain pieces of music that make me feel like it make my soul jump. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's an overwhelming feeling. I heard when Dilla played me the light, it wasn't even exactly the way it was now. It was a song that and he just, he had the beat. And honestly, I think at one point he was about to send it to Fife or whatever. And then he was like, oh man, yo, you could use this. And then I was like, what's that? He's like, yo, you could use this. He's like, let me redo it. And he just redid it, man. He put the drums that he put on there, and I can remember being in Brooklyn. I was staying at my she was her name was Andrea. God bless her soul. She was the international rep for our record label. I was staying. That was when I first moved to Brooklyn. I came to Brooklyn with like 2 weeks worth of clothing. I thought I was gonna go back and forth Chicago to Brooklyn.
Right.
Ended up staying there. Me and Derek and my cousin Ajale, God rest his soul too.
Rest in peace to Ajale. That brother's missed.
Yes. So I remember like being in her apartment, going down the stairs, and I had that beat on, and I was listening to it in my headphones, and I started writing about I never knew a la. I just started coming up with that, and then I was like, man, this song felt like heartfelt. It was beautiful for me once we put it out. First of all, Amir told me just about last month that he was gonna try to talk me into taking the light off the album because he didn't think it fit. Yeah, I was like, bro,
Amir's always meddling.
Yeah, meddling. and another thing is, because we sampled that song, they wanted 100. They took 100% of the publishing. They wanted So my lawyers was actually trying to talk me into not using the song, and I was like, no, I'm using this song. And
give them their coins, give them their bread. Like, let's rock.
Like, look, and to this day, I'm glad I followed my heart on that. It was the first song that, to answer your question, I guess I didn't know that it would get to that level because I didn't have records that was on the radio, to be honest, up to that point. And this song got to like pop radio, and that was just a new thing for me. It was the first time I seen young black girls singing my song. Like, like girls that were maybe 13 to 14 who weren't listening to jazz. Like, right. Like, when jazz is, that age. It's like it was amazing. It was amazing. That touched my heart, man, because I was like, wow, like, because they weren't into Common like that before that, like, because I'm just a hip hop dude to them. Right. But that song, like, touched them.
You spent some time being homeless in your car at the beginning of your comedy career, and that endeared you to homeless communities. And you were part of a documentary about youth homelessness called Lost in America. It was produced and shot by the director of People's Party, Steve Vasquez. Shout out to Steve.
Shout out Steve.
Yeah, but why was it important for you as a celebrity to lend your face and your voice to this cause?
Well, it was super important to me because it's who I am. Like it doesn't have anything to do with celebrity. If I was not famous at all and somebody said, hey, weren't you homeless before? Yeah. You want to talk about this? Yes. Like, I feel like God puts you through certain things. Like you go through experiences, hard times, hardships where you feel like, why is this happening to me? Man, I just wish I would die. This sucks. Like, I don't know why me. It's because it's building you up to get stronger for something else, to be able to sustain and handle something bigger. So if I don't share my story, how can I make sure that my future, which are the children, especially these foster kids, are going to be productive and know, hey, if Tiffany made it, if Tiffany could do it, and she barely can read, I know I can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Tiffany survived, if Tiffany came out of it, then I can do it too. And it's about believing in yourself and putting the work in. And I just felt like wherever my voice can be heard for someone that might be like me, that might go through some of the same things I go through, that I just want them to know, look, just because somebody famous don't mean they perfect and don't mean they ain't been through shit.
You put out this debut album, Down to Earth. Money in the Middle, huge record from this. That record is ubiquitous. It's a ubiquitous reference in hip hop. Biggie Smalls and other rappers, but most notably Biggie Smalls rapped about on what remix was that? Make It Feel Good like Tony, put it in the middle like Money.
Only You, the 112
Only
remix.
112 remix, right? Now we were hanging out, you and I were hanging out with IDK, who's a brilliant younger artist, and he was like, so what do you do? Right? And it was like, I rap, I rap a little bit. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's Moni Love. And he's like, wait, Moni in the middle? Moni Love? And so, how often do people come up to you and know you more from the references to the record than from the actual record?
All the time. That is how they align me with who I am, like that, with those references. And there's so many of them. There's so many.
There's
of
a lot.
them. Yeah, and that's how a lot of people will be like, "That's you? Wait, back that thing up. That's you? Put the piece in the middle like Moni. That's you?"
Right.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm even as recent as Kanye. You know, Kanye did it. And you know what's really funny? The way how Kanye did it was like, thank you, I think. Because it was odd. But he was so geeked with the fact that he did that reference. I saw him at Brooklyn Bodega Festival. Q-Tip performed that year, and that's when Q-Tip brought Busta up on stage with him, and then he brought me up on stage with him to perform, like Q-Tip and Friends. And Kanye was backstage also, and he ran up to me, and he had just name-dropped me. I don't remember the name of the song right now, and I'm old. I'm 50. You have to give me a break. And he ran up to me and was like, Moni, I just mentioned your name in the song. I just mentioned your name. And I was like, really? He was so geeked by it. And he was like, did you hear it yet? And I was like, no, I didn't hear it yet. And he was like, you gotta hear it. So he told me the name of the song. And then when I listened to it, it was quite raunchy. It was like... And it just cracked me up how excited he was about the fact that he did this, to the point where he told me to go back and listen to it like homework. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then when I did listen to it, and I was like, this is kind of raunchy. Like, I could really take this wrong. I honestly didn't take offense to it because of the fact that I have the prerequisite episode of him running up to me at the Brooklyn Bodega, excited like a little kid in a candy shop that he had said this. And because of that, when I actually heard it, I didn't get offended. I just was like, oh my God, you're Kanye, you are just Kanye.
Now, when we got back together, after a long time, like, we didn't speak for a while. We worked on the Reflection Eternal album, the first one. We didn't speak for a while. We started speaking again. We got together to do the second Reflection Eternal album, Revolution Per Minute. We went to Jamaica, set up shop in Jamaica.
Yes, sir.
And then we had a great time in Jamaica. Yeah, we was doing it. We was riding horses. We was going to Beanie Man concerts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a good trip.
That was a dope trip.
We came up with the beginning of the album, and then we flew back to Cincinnati on a Sunday night, and there was a party that night. I don't remember the name of the party, but it was like a Sunday night party that always happened. And we went in the studio, put our stuff down, we listened to some records, we went to the party, we got wild drunk, right? Yep. And then you had an old school, like, it's like a purple car, right?
Red, my red 73 Caprice.
Okay, I must have been so drunk that it looked purple to me. So he had a red 73 Caprice sitting on some. What size was the rims?
That was a
24 rims.
Yeah.
That was that era, right? So we driving across the bridge, bumping the new music we just made, and we stop at the gas station to get some cigars, and the cops whipped on us.
Oh, man, that was crazy.
Just from all the shenanigans from that night, we ended up getting arrested as soon as we landed from Jamaica, because we went too hard at the club.
Yeah, and that was great. We was playing back again.
Yeah, we was playing back again, and and I was mad at your boy E, because he was talking shit to the cops, because Kev, not E. My bad, sorry E. It was Kev, because they had High Tech hemmed up, and Kev was in the backseat with me like, yo, Kweli, we can't let these cops do High Tech like that. I was like, nigga, if you don't shut the fuck up, I was like, we'll get through this another way, bro. Like, and they locked us, so we was in the drunk tank together.
Oh my God!
There was a dude. There was a dude who was arrested with us, who was sitting there. He was like, "Oh shit, it's Kweli. Oh shit, it's High Tech. It's Kweli and High Tech." Wow. Remember, there's the dude who fell asleep at the light. That's why he got arrested.
Oh man, that was crazy.
What did you learn from our friendship through that experience?
Man. Me and Quad we've been through a few other, episodes.
Are you talking about you tried to beat up the cab driver because he bought the crack?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Tried to smoke crack in the car?
We'd have been through some
you
crazy...
told that story on the show.
Yeah, that was a crazy time too, man. We just got back from Japan and get in a cab, and the fucking cab driver stops at the crack spot, double parks and stops at the crack spot. Go in there, get some crack. Asked us for the money first. Takes our money to go buy some crack.
We gave him the money.
Gave
we
the
didn't
money.
know.
Quad, you know what's
Well, what
crazy?
else could you do?
Quad we was waiting to hear our song on the radio because the definition
Stretch
had
your
just
Bob.
dropped.
That's what I was telling Stretch your Bob.
Quad knew what was going on, so he like reaching over the back seat, trying to turn up the radio, and I'm like, "Yo, Quad, man, something ain't right, man." He's like, "Oh, everything's fine, everything's fine." I'm like, "Nah, man." I'm a whole time. I'm like looking out the window. I'm like, "No, this shit crap." Nah, I ain't
It's like that
never
Dave Chappelle joke. Liquor store, gun store. Where the fuck you taking me?
I'm like, yo, I've been to New York enough time, and I think we was come from
To
JFK. I was like, I know my way from JFK to Quad crib in Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? Man, long story short, this guy starts smoking the pipe while he's driving, like hovering over the steering wheel like this. I'm like, yo, Quad, this motherfucker's smoking, man. So Quad like, stop the fucking car. So he stopped the car. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. We bust the windows, take the radio, throw it outside and shit.
We was so juvenile, so upset.
He run up the street.
I mean, but at the end of the day, he was smoking crack, and I don't think that y'all was juvenile. What do you do when someone's smoking crack?
We was wilding.
You got second cracked out. That's what happened.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't want no secondhand crack smoke.
Secondhand cracked. That's what y'all
A
got.
cop stopped while this was going on. A cop pulled up while this was going on. We told our side of the story. He told his. The cop was like, "That's between y'all," and
yeah,
rolled out.
Man, but that being said, man, what I learned about our friendship is that you're gonna go through some things together, and you gotta tough it out, like and just hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Things happen, and you just gotta tough it out, man, because it could have been crazy, and you're gonna have the crazy homies around, and you're gonna have crazy shit pop off, but you got to keep it moving because the foundation is way thicker than that.
No doubt. Now, speaking of the foundation, we did Revolutions Per Minute, Part 3. We did 2 albums. I kind of feel like Reflection Eternal might be a trilogy. So how do you feel about Part 3 of the Reflection Eternal experience?
How do I feel about that?
Yeah.
Man, you already know. We gotta write some rules.
Tell me the rules right now in public.
That sounds great, man. Like, that sounds like the shit. That the thing is about Kwa, all right, the thing is people don't know, like with Kwa, he helped me be a better producer because he don't discriminate. You know what I'm saying?
Discriminate, I like that word.
And he give not every beat, but 90% of the beats he give a chance to. And which in turn, a lot of rappers that want music from me, they'll say they want this type of style or particular type of high tech when they don't really know how it was really formulated. Mm-hmm. It was formulated, inspired by those who gave me a chance. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of, I make my best music with artists that just let me do what I do. Yes. And you can scrap it later. Yeah. You can scrap it later. But don't go in and ask for a high tech beat and not let me do high tech. Because I might be on some high tech shit and you missed the boat. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Kwa is one of those guys who always gave the beats a chance, and whether we kept the song or not. So with that being said, I would love to work on another project,
Let's do it. And vice versa. You definitely made me a better, more discerning MC and made me learn how to write songs better.
I was hard on you, bro.
Yeah, you was hard on me. Like Hot Tech would just be like, yeah, you was hard on me, man. Like you would make sure that the verses was right. You would make sure that everything was right. And everyone needs that. Everyone needs a producer. You know what I'm saying? Very rare that someone could produce themselves. And I'm talking about even vocal production. Like everyone, when you make a music, you need the overseer. You need somebody who is looking from the top down and be like, I see what you're trying to do, but here's how I marry that into everything.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to say the bromance here is so amazing. If you can't get arrested with your friend, then what the hell are y'all even friends for? In your song Forever, you open up a little bit about your experience with self-harm when you were a teenager, rapping about taking pills to get rid of your body fat and how you still have scars on your wrists from cutting. What inspired you to dive into that dark part of your life in song, and why is it so crucial that we face those issues in art?
I think, again, I talk about like the healing power of music. And the type of music that always like resonated with me was the kind that like told personal stories. And for me, that was a story that I had never really told. Something quite honestly I was ashamed of, but I realized years later that it become such a part of me that I didn't even notice like these. I didn't even notice the scars anymore, And when reflecting on it, I was like, wow, this has become a part of me, and it has been a part of my development into the woman I am now. And at the time, while it was so traumatic for me, it was so hurtful. I was kind of like in this really dark space, going through that and finding, that clarity and finding that light was so, was a lengthy journey. But when I thought about it, I was like, okay, this is something that, we don't talk about a lot. We talk about, we're supposed to hide, those things. We're supposed to hide those unsavory bits of ourselves. When we ask each other, like, how we're doing, we don't really want to know how the person is really doing. We just want like this perfunctory answer of like, I'm good, right. But what would happen if we talked about those things? Would there then be someone who's like, yo, like, I felt that way too, or I went through that too, and I needed to hear that, And I thought about like, if my teenage self, if my preteen self had heard this song, would things have turned out differently? And I don't regret the things that, I experienced. I think that they made me a stronger person, and they made me wiser in many ways. But for me, it was important for me, especially during like the whole social media age, where this illusion of perfection is like imposed upon us, Yes. It was important for me to create something that was just like, yo, like, you are so beautiful just the way you are. You don't need to like mirror someone else's life. You don't need to hide these things. And I've been seeing so much more of that, women who are like burn victims, who are, proudly like showing their skin, people, Keke Palmer just like revealed like,
oh man, that was so excellent for her to make that post. I was blown away.
Oh, beautiful. So
You're so beautiful.
Yeah. And so, it was just like, we're done hiding. We are so dope like we are. Of course, there's always the potential for growth and change, but the things that fundamentally make us who we are, we shouldn't have to hide that because we're trying to adhere to this like societal standard of normality or like perfection.
I want to congratulate you on being sober. That's definitely a hard feat to conquer. So kudos to everyone out there.
Thank you.
Battling with addiction. And as you said, a lot of people who haven't battled, they didn't realize how big the other side was for the recovery community. It has samples with interview by Bun B talking about Pimp C's death, rest in peace. And we're also exactly a year from Juice WRLD's death by overdose. What do you want to say to young people out there that may be struggling with addiction?
Whew, that's a big question and a good one. I think that for me, because I struggled for so long as a youth and didn't know that there was a recovery community, because by nature, we're in a program of being anonymous. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an anonymous program. Whether you're talking about Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or whatever it is, it's an anonymous program, and anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film, which I'm probably breaking right now, is one of the founding principles. So I didn't know that there was a bunch of people, thousands in my city, that were convening in like the basements of churches and random old halls and talking about this disease that I had. I didn't even know it was a disease at the beginning. I went for years like, why can I not fucking stop? Like, why can I not drink and smoke like my friends? Like, why do I need to, like, when I wake up, that's the first thing I'm thinking about, and then I have to go get, and other people can just do it on the weekends or 3 times a week or whatever. I didn't know that there was a community that was there to support, love me unconditionally, that had the same fucking disease. And there's the therapeutic value of one addict to another sharing their experience, strength, and hope that is saved my fucking life and continues to save my life. And you work these steps, you work these 12 steps, and you get better. You excavate that bullshit. You figure out your character defects. You say you're sorry to some people. You have a spiritual awakening, and you go out and you carry that message to somebody else. And that's the most important thing in this world, is like being of service to other people, getting outside of your own fucking head. That has been my story. And I didn't know that existed. And I think for a lot of these youth, you know, how could you even know? You know, you haven't even been doing drugs necessarily long enough to even know that you have that allergy that you can't stop. And these drugs, you know, these, you know, whether it's lean, whether it's Xanax, whether it's, you know, oxycodone, all of these drugs, I mean, if you do them for long enough, like, you will get addicted. It doesn't matter who you are. That's prescription dope. Like, that is heroin.
Yeah.
In the form of a pill. Not Xanax, but the other ones. And they're really fucking difficult to get off. Like, you will have withdrawals. Like, you will sweat through the sheets. Like, you will, you know, want more. That's how they're designed. So, I think just overall having, you know, that information out there, that there is a community of people that have the same disease, is super important to get out to the young people. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this recovery podcast, is kids just don't know. The youth just don't know. People don't know. You know how many times I'm hit up by like the parent of a kid who's like, yo, my kid is 20 years old, can't stop, got kicked out of school, whatever it is, the story. And they're like, what do I do? And they have no idea what to do. And how important going to treatment is. Yeah. You know, I think that for so long, like, there's a stigma, you know, and we have to destigmatize this whole shit. We have to talk about it. You know, there's a conversation around mental health right now and destigmatizing that. Addiction and mental health go fucking hand in hand.
That's right. Yeah.
And we need to make sure that people know that there's resources, more funding to get people treatment that they need. 'Cause if it wasn't for, you know, my pops having the 10 or 12 racks that it was when I first went to treatment, and being willing to spend that on me, I'd be fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be here right now. And that's not to be fucking dramatic. That's just what it is. Like, I was about to die. I just was lucky enough to go to a facility for 30 days. And people, I think, don't know that that's okay, you know, to go to treatment. That actually, that's the best thing. And I remember like hearing, you know, certain rapper like talk about, you know, I think it was Smoke Perp, and he was talking about he went to treatment, but didn't want to tell anybody. It was like he was having that internal like conversation too, like,
with the stigma,
okay,
right?
What do I do now? You know, what do I do now? And you know, my whole shit is like, you know, sipping lean and smoking backwoods. Like, you know, how do I still remain relevant? And you know, it's a mess. But you know what's more of a mess is fucking dying. Yeah. And our young people are, you know, Mac Miller was a friend of mine. You know, you look at what happened to Peep, you look at what happened to Juice WRLD. Like, these are fucking tragedies.
Yeah.
And they're happening, and it's not just the famous people, man. Young people are dying at the highest rate than they ever have. People in general too. It's not even young. This disease does not discriminate. So I have no idea what your question was, but obviously I'm very passionate on
No,
issue.
you answered it passionately. I don't know if, I mean, I haven't had Black Thoughts cooking, but I can't imagine that he does too many things better than being an MC. And I
Dude,
told you
that Hot 97 freestyle ain't shit compared to his Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about that freestyle for a second. Now, Act 2, first of all, when I heard this song, Act 2, Love of My Life, I shed a tear, and that's real. This is, yeah, that song
almost didn't make it. Almost didn't make it.
Man, Zap Mama, Common, Black Thought's verse. Black Thought's verse on that song encapsulates a large part of my life. I step into the stage with my eyes closed and push back the impact, push back the first 5 rows. All that stuff is like, that's how I feel as an MC, as a superhero.
That song almost never made the album.
Wow.
Tariq hated that song.
I loved it. But now go back to the Funkmaster Flex freestyle. He called me after that freestyle. He was like, "Yo, Quad, niggas really fuck with that freestyle." I'm like, do you not know who you are? And so I guess my question is, since I've heard stories that sometimes Black Thought will start working on solo stuff and then it'll get pulled into whatever the Roots is doing, he became very, very prolific after the Funkmaster Flex freestyle. Why is it, and I have my own thoughts, that people don't, unless you really do this music for a living, people don't understand that Black Thought is absolutely like the best MC?
Tariq is too good for his own good. And that rule in the 48 Laws of Power, which you're not supposed to, you can't outshine the teacher, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely know that there was some of that going on as well. Often, with our peers and stuff. Actually, you know what? I think Jay told me once, like, the logic of, because he wanted to, when Jay heard Tariq's verse in I Will Not Apologize.
Yeah, a record I'm on.
Oh, that's right. You're on I was like, Kweli, there's a song called I Will Not Apologize. I don't know if you ever heard
y'all told me what to say. Y'all was using me for my voice, but I'm still appreciating.
Right, I totally forgot. You're doing the hook.
Yeah, right.
So Jay had this wide open thing, like, finally. Like, and I'm like, wait, finally what? Finally. And it was sort of like, he was like, finally y'all listen to me. Because Tariq does such a simple rhythmic pattern there. That's easy to apologize. An easy pattern that you can follow in and that's one of the rare times in which he almost like spoon feeds you a simple rhyme pattern that your brain can follow. Whereas normally he's just like, it's like Crazy Taxi. Like, where's he going? Where's he going? It's like trying to use a fly swatter on a fly that you can't kill.
That's a great metaphor.
That's what Tariq is like. And, Jay, I was kind of asking, like, can't we get him, like, can't you use your influence to get him? And I'm talking to Jay, the record president of Def Jam at the time. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to get him on more features. And that, like, that's the thing, like, get him on those things. And he was just like, the logic of that thinking is, like, oftentimes people will want to co-sign something new. Like, you felt that definitely when, there's a Get By remix with everybody and their mother on it. Snoop, Jay, and like that sort of thing.
On that remix, I only got 8 bars on that remix. Most got 24 bars. Kanye got 24 bars. Because when I gave Kanye the record to listen to, I had just demoed up a first 8 bars. I was going to come back. But Kanye and Most recorded a verse and took it to DJ Enough. And before I even got to finish my verse. So I got the shortest verse on the Get By remix.
Right. Well, all right. So he tells me, like, he's like, the problem with thought is, it's bad when the first line is the problem with thought is, he's like, it's one thing where it's like a super established artist, pulls a move. And I think he was sort of suggesting the Renegade situation, with like, and without directly, like that Nas line of like Eminem ate you up on your own shit, that did a lot to establish MCs at the time where it's like, oh, I cannot afford I can't afford. It's one thing to get sunned by an established person, but the days of just letting Busta, like Q-Tip was very gracious. Like, okay, I'm gonna use my platform on my classic ass album to just, instead of me getting my rocks off, I'm gonna throw you an alley oop and go ahead, Buster, take it home. Just do your
right, Mr.
Like,
Busta
and that's the moment,
right?
Yeah, and Q-Tip took Q-Tip had to lay out the red carpet for Busta to come on there and kill it. You know what I mean? And the days of that are far and few between. And he, Jay told me in no certain terms that no rapper can really afford to look bad in front of him. So it's almost like we gotta blackball him.
Shout out to Jay-Z for seeing the big picture here.
Yeah, and it was a hard pill to swallow. It's like, and then I feel guilty because it's sort of like I'm the mascot of the Roots and people default to me, and it's like, well, let's use a mirror, and so it's like I get these opportunities of like, okay, I'll make the Voodoo record with you. Okay, I'll make this record. I'm like, I'm having my moment in the sun where I get to collaborate with and play reindeer games. And Puerto Rico is like Rudolph, like he's not allowed to play reindeer games. I'm gonna tell you, like I didn't even tell him this shit, man. Like I cried hard because I was just like, when I heard that Hot 97 freestyle, I cried, man, because it was just like, it's been a long time coming for him to finally get his roses in a way where. And he's not too big on like wearing his heart on his sleeve in public and all that stuff. Like he's mystery, never lets you see his eyes, and wears his hats. Like he's very low key like that. And things aren't supposed to bother him. All right, well, keep it moving. And just for that moment, like to see him trending and seeing people like write out the lyrics and teach them and all those things and really get. Like, so I'm happy to say, like, right now he's the most interesting member of the Roots, and I'm a happy second banana in this case, which I'm fine with that.
Now, I want to go back to talking about aliases and fictional characters and being elusive and why you felt the need to put some distance between yourself and the music business. And one person who's exemplified that more than anybody is a brother to both of us that we just recently lost in the physical. He's still with us in the spiritual. That's the brother, MF Doom. We're going to give love and flowers to MF Doom. Your album, Mad Villainy, with MF Doom, I once did a radio show where you had to bring in your favorite vinyl and talk about why it inspired you. And the vinyl I brought in was the Mad Villain joint. And that record was revolutionary. That record is one of the most important hip hop releases of all time. The chances you took, you took risks. Y'all took chances. Tell me about meeting and linking up with MF Doom and how you knew that it was time for you and Doom to collaborate on that level.
I knew we needed to collab when I heard Doomsday. I didn't even know him back then. Even the Cam D stuff.
Right.
I didn't put it together. I didn't even know that was him until later though. Like I didn't put it together. But when I heard that his first MF Doom record, that struck me because all the beats, that's my type of thing. His lyrics were witty, you know what I mean? And just music alone, the samples he chose. I know all the samples that he chose, so like it's something I would have done in a different way.
Yeah, both you and Doom, neither one of y'all are scared. You obviously grew up on digging in the crates and being obscure with the samples, but neither one of you are scared to sample popular shit and make it your own, which I find refreshing as well.
No rules. We don't have rules, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just go by your ear. That's it.
Yeah. Now, Dilla was also, rest in peace to Dilla. Dilla was also elusive. Dilla didn't fuck with people like that. When I worked with Dilla, I had to go to Detroit. He sent Frank and Dank to pick me up. It wasn't no sending beats through the email. None of that. I want to thank you for asking me to be a part of Champion Sound. It's one of the highlights of my career. You've compared Doom to Charlie Parker. You've compared Dilla to Coltrane. You've compared yourself to Thelonious Monk. What chambers did Dilla open up for you, and how did y'all connect spiritually? Because I feel like there's a real spiritual connection with you and Dilla.
It's something that's just unspoken, because when I met him, it was like we knew each other for years. Like me and him could sit in the room, not even talk, and just still connect musically. Like it's weird. Like on some alien shit or something. Same type of energy, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same energy. Like when I met him, it was like, it just pulled me to him. Like, you know what I mean? Without even thinking about it. It's like we knew each other for years, but we didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Questlove tells a story, I think it's in that same documentary, when he says Dilla was telling him about Loot Pack and telling him about Madlib, and he was like, yo, I feel like he's talking to me. I feel like he's making these beats for me.
I was, you know what I mean? Like that's my beat brother right there. He's king of the beats to me. So, you know, I was basically trying to impress him. You know what I mean?
Yes. Let's hear this shit.
All right, so I want to wrap it up. Oh, you know what? I want people to look at my eyes when I say this. Okay. All right, I want you to see. Okay. Dear Lord, I need to be rescued. No one can get done except you. Please tell me to test this through. I did my best too, as I could, as I should. Knock on wood, then I'm good, then I'm hood. But he knows my heart. And what grows from the start glows in the dark. Knows from the start, I was chose for this part. When you're smart, won't always bite, but knows from the bark. Rose from the dark, could have glimpsed of the light. Now I can't live without it, man. This ain't right, so I'ma give it to Jesus, because it ain't my fight. I wanna make it to the light, please make it all right. And ain't nobody but you taking my life, because I know not many do make it through the fight, but there's still a many who walk with your grace, because I know plenty who walk with your face in the minds and the hearts, with the word on their lips, but still straight from the herd. I'm sure you heard how it gets, because the word is a gift that'll break in the yoke strong, hold the bond down to a third of its strength. When you're free in the name of Jesus, you're free indeed. All you need is faith the size of a mustard seed. All things are possible through Christ who strengthens me. It's my destiny to be the best I can be, to give you the best of me. And now, no such thing as the rest of me, is you selfishly gave me the recipe, which is the word in the book, right here the whole time. Man, I done did the whole 9 4 times, probably more times. I kind of lost track. And every time I got lost, of course, right back. They don't understand how I get lost like that. I learned like this, you get taught like that.
DMX.
Yeah.
People's Party.
Yeah.
Jasmine Lee.
Jasmine Lee.
This is how we do it.
Yeah.
One love.
Hey. Let the horn blow. What you want, yo? What we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party. When opportunity knocking, then young nigga move that door. Whoa. Get your foot stuck in it, call me young, go get it. Now you can't fuck with it, might as well roll with it. What's the word, what time is it? Fix your watch, let me watch that fix. Pay attention to the pilot trick. We building a shore, it's marvelous. Your individual accomplishments ain't stopping shit. When the cops rush in, about to hack this shit like anonymous. I got boots from the cool, my accomplice.
This beat's an annihilator. We gon' spark the fire later. Now we rush the violator. Scribble down the wire data. I am an empire hater. We do not require beta. We have been assigned a rape, but that's how you got pounds of paper. It's my job to instigate. 1, 2.